Good. Happy Friday, man.
Thank you. How are you feeling today?
Feeling good. It was a wild showdown slate. That game was, we were on the air for the beginning of it and whatnot, but man, the scores were, I saw Lofty tweeted, like, they were like Millie Maker-esque top scores. It was crazy.
Yeah, there was a 215 or something like that won it with 6 players. That was a pretty wild one. I don't know. It was a really fun game to watch. It was a little frustrating DFS wise. Just I finally got the new Brandon Cooks game that I was looking for, but it didn't matter because there were like every receiver did that, including Aldrick Robinson, who scored 2 touchdowns on 8 snaps. Like just went full old Will Fuller.
Yeah, I mean, I get more power to people who picked up on the little, the avenue. They nailed it. I'll say this. If you played Aldrick Robinson because of, the Treadwell's drops and maybe he gets, that's well and good, but like he played a handful of snaps and converted all his catches to touchdowns. So yeah. It is.
Treadwell still played 46 snaps. I don't think there's any depth chart changing going on here, but yeah. Nice call, nerd, Seth. Way to go.
Hey, I mean, you know what? In a showdown slate.
Oh, yeah, it's totally fine play. Absolutely. You know what the problem is? Like, I didn't do great in showdown. I more like on the Monday, Thursday. It feels good. I've had a not the wildest start to the NFL, and it was good to finally have a pretty solid slate. And it was the Monday, Thursday one. I kind of faded just thinking of Talib and Marcus Peters likely being out. I went pretty heavy on Minnesota and just that game in general, thinking that would be the shootout, even though, most people were playing more of the Bucs Steelers. But yeah, it was certainly a fun game to watch. As far as showdown goes, I almost always in showdown slates have tried to jam both quarterbacks and found a way to do it. Because all the receiving options that are good were so expensive last night, I found that to be very difficult to do. So for once, I didn't have both quarterbacks in most of my lineups, and they scored a zillion points. Yes, you got you only had 8 because he missed that last field goal, but you had a nice game. I played some of the kicker just because you needed something to free up salary, and it was really hard.
Yeah, it was. Showdown's certainly not my forte, but I did fine. I had a lot of Cooper Kupp in the captain spot that helped, but did not have Aldrick Robinson and was never really close to doing anything significant. But I'll take it. The day got away from me yesterday, and to tell you the truth, I wouldn't have stacked it hard enough. Thursday, Monday, you couldn't have picked enough play. I mean, you could barely miss last night. It was unreal.
No, you really couldn't. Kyle Rudolph was the worst play, and he still scored 16 points or something, right? Oh yeah, it was 10. I think I had him in
that's not a death sentence at 4 flat. It's everybody else though. I mean, pick a receiver, boom. You could have double stacked the quarterbacks with pretty much anyone, and you would have crushed. Yep,
it's true. This is From A to B, presented by awesomemo.com. I'm Andrew. That's Ben. We got Dan Strafford here behind the glass today.
Yep.
Josh is off, so nice to have someone else, some fresh change. We're used to Dan. That's great, but yeah, very exciting game last night. There were a lot. I think there were a lot of takeaways, or maybe not takeaways, but just there was a lot of stuff to watch. A lot of exciting things happening in that Monday, Thursday Wildcat. I was up to second place at the very end, and then Robert Woods, the final catch he had, got him over 100 yards. So, my Cooks play was, Woods ended up being just as good. That was a bummer. Dropped me from second to seventh, cost a cool $4,800. But what are you going to do?
It's all in the wash. But
yeah, it certainly will happen. But it was nice to get a solid slate for once to start this year. It's been the first couple of weeks have not been super kind, but that will happen from time to time.
Yeah. Open the floodgates. I believe in any sport. The first one, I know that sounds, kind of cheesy, but the first week when you really have a good one or just a good slate, it's just okay, get in a groove. Yeah, I mean, the Rams are very good. Sean McVay knows what he's doing. It's cool to see coaching be rewarded, just because Jeff Fisher is obviously horrible and this guy is not, and it just shows that not that this matters, but like it's so interesting to think that Goff could have been labeled such a bust if things just changed that were outside of his control. And now he looks like one of the better quarterbacks. And I don't even think he's that good. This guy is just phenomenal at giving him good opportunities.
But he personally, that was by far the best Goff. Like that was the best game I've ever seen Goff play. Not close. He personally looked incredible last night.
Oh no, he has flashes of absolute brilliance, and more. But that comes to me with being put in good positions to start, and you build up confidence. You don't have to press. Yeah, and he.
No, I'm 100% with you. And in general, I've been sort of Goff's a league average quarterback, which is totally fine. I don't think that that's necessarily not true, but it's been and that's been totally fine with the McVay offense and the skill position players they have around him, the offensive line being shored up. Like he's got all the weapons, he's got everything in place that he needs to succeed, and generally has just not screwed it up, which is totally fine. Carson Wentz almost won MVP doing that last year, and Goff played, but last night specifically, Goff just played
absolutely
unbelievably. That throw, the Woods touchdown down the seam, that's the best throw I've ever seen Goff make, and maybe the best throw I've seen this year. Like that was unbelievable.
The one to, I think it was Cup in the back right of the end zone that he just dropped. Like he had some dimes last night for sure.
Oh yeah, and the Woods one was poor Anthony Barr, who's he's been a disaster this year, but that was actually pretty good coverage. Like he was right there with him, and Goff just put it in. There was a 2-foot window that he just hit him with, and it was awesome. Really fun to watch. I was, shorter on Robert Woods than anybody else in that game last night, which was a bummer. But yeah, I mean the Rams. I don't know. I mean, not an important talking point, but. Are they that good? Like, I know they've looked very impressive. I've heard some people really talk like this team is like uniquely special. I don't know if I see that. I'm not sure I do either.
They're good.
Yeah, they're good. And they're, a lot of the time these sort of coaching scheme based teams do get figured out a little bit. And I think that is probably going to happen. I think people will start to find counters for what they do. They do enough different stuff, I think, that it will take longer for that to be figured out. But, the offense looks great. The defense, as we have been talking about all season, is really good but really thin. Mm-hmm. So losing to Lieb hurt. Peters is actually not – I was kind of looking at his overall performance this year, and it's not been very good. Aaron Donald's a god. That was unreal last night. That one drive or the one series where he just took over. Poor Tom, I think it's Tom Compton, the left guard. Just there were multiple plays in a row where he didn't even get his hands on him, and he Donald was just through he wasn't there.
He's quite good, yeah. I mean,
which that happens on the outside, but the whole thing with interior offensive, the interior battles there, the guards and the centers. Versus the the defensive tackles, they're they immediately go into one another. It's not it's a different job. When you're a guard, your job is to get up underneath the guy and to immediately engage the player. And when you're a tackle on the outside, if you've got Von Miller lined up across from you, you want to stay as far away from him as you possibly can. You're trying to create space there. And so Donald just immediately gets up into a guy and then he's gone. It was so wacky. He's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, when you see there are certain positions that, and I do watch a ton of sports, ton of football, but you don't really notice them unless they're terrible usually. But every so often you'll see even an offensive lineman. If you notice a good one, that means they're just ungodly good because for the most part, you kind of want to be anonymous. And the interior linemen for the most part are like that. But Aaron Donald is one of the few guys that, even if you're not a super football fan, you can kind of say, wow, that guy is having an impact, which is pretty amazing from that position.
Yep, because you never, you just rarely see it from there. And, we've talked about this a few times, but I don't think everyone watches every show. So it's just a very different, traditionally the defensive tackles have been the big, huge guys, the Vince Wilfork, even the Vince Wilfork, I guess, is sort of the second wave or whatever, recent wave. But it's a lot of the big-ass run stuffers. That's what you've kind of gotten there over the years. And Aaron Donald is not that. And that's kind of more valuable these days because teams are just passing more and more and more, and just being able to get to the quarterback, really hard to do from the inside. And the fact that Donald Ken is just Ken like that is crazy.
Indeed. Look who's in chat, our old pal.
Who we got here? I was just trying to load chat, and I'm not seeing
Mac.
Our old pal. Okay, I thought you said old, and it was like, that's not EMAC, right? He's the old pal.
Old pal. Is it a Thunderdome week? Well, they do have the hybrid Thunderbird 4444. I might be in there, yeah. I had a good week last week, so that makes it easier to stomach. Got to see the slate. Potentially, though. It's a pretty nice tournament. Only 250 people, a couple $100K up top. So,
yeah, that's a big one. Pretty solid. Bad.
Yeah.
Are you staying in Foxwoods all weekend, or are you coming back for Sunday?
No, I'm coming. Oh, no, I'll be back. I'm just going to the casino tomorrow to do some, real people gambling, and then I'll be back. So, yeah. Did you see, I know you're on the West Coast, you see any Ryder Cup? Or, I mean, it's not the day to really watch, to be honest, but.
No, I didn't watch any. I picked up on, I read about it, saw what happened. The Americans came out well and then just got swept in the afternoon. Yeah,
which is that I don't think Europe's ever swept them in floorball like that. It was bad in the afternoon. Bryson and Phil, possibly the worst pairing ever.
That's such a funny pairing.
Furyk I'm not one to, but man, I don't know how he came up with that. Phil shouldn't be, get him out. Don't play him. And that would be step one.
Well, if you're playing alternate shot, right? How does Bryson, if Phil is off if it's a Phil drive, has Bryson ever taken a shot like that before where you're just.
Worst idea ever. Both of them. It was real bad. Even DJ and Fowler weren't great. Going to need some better showings because Fleetwood and Molinari for the Euro side, that's what you kind of like to do in these things. You just try to find a super pairing, someone gets rolling. They played both, times and they looked great. They really smoked. Fleetwood, you talk about all the time, highest rover guy. He was making putts all over. I mean, that guy, when he gets going, it's
him, and the other super high rover guy is Poulter.
Yeah, Poulter and Rory rebound. Rory was terrible in the morning. But we'll see. I mean, it's a long way to go, 5-3. It's just, God, when you're up 3-1, you're thinking, God, if we can get even you can really put the heat on after one day. To be decisively trailing is unfathomable when you have a 2-point lead after the first wave.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal.
But long way to go. We'll see. If Phil is out there tomorrow, I'm gonna have some serious questions.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really gotten to watch. I mean, because it comes on at midnight here, which is sort of when I'd like to.
Yeah, I missed
to be in bed by then. But
yeah, I missed obviously the early ones. I saw the afternoon, and it wasn't much to see because a couple groups were up 5-ish, and then the other were up. It was they were up 3 with about 5-6 holes to go, and it was already in dire straits.
How bad was the Phil and Bryson thing? What was it, 7? They were down 7 through 9 holes?
Yeah, it was a lot. It was really, really bad. Like I said, it's almost, I guess you can kind of relate it to what we were just talking about. I think for the most part, the pairings, you're not going to really notice anything. This is one of those where even if you were a casual golf fan, you would just be like, why are these two playing? It just didn't make sense. And you saw it. You really did.
Yeah.
Not to mention Phil's just not good. That also doesn't help. But
Phil is such a weird golfer.
Don't worry. Next week we've got the safe way.
Yeah, we got it's true. And we got some special stuff coming up. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Tuesday going to be a fun show. A little bit of familiarity, which would be great. Which would be good to have. Yeah. Let's see here. What else we got? We got college football. There is a full slate tomorrow. Just for everyone, we can, we'll talk about it here. We'll break down a couple of games. You who, we're working a lot. You're going to be on the road tomorrow, so you won't be around in Slack.
Nope. I'll be around tonight for sure. Just tomorrow before lock, I'm gonna be driving, so not gonna be there. And we'll see. I mean, yeah, I did. You want to dive into a little college football?
Yeah, it seems. I don't know. It seems to me, just like at my sort of first glance of it, that like the game that the most expensive players. It's almost like last night with it's not the most expensive players, so never mind. But the West Virginia Texas Tech game is just loaded. It's got a 73 over under, tight spread, but everyone's insanely expensive. Like, do you think it's possible to try and stack this game up? Is there value elsewhere that you can do it with, or are you just kind of picking a piece here and there?
I'm more towards the latter. And we talk about this all the time. There's multiple criteria for a stackable game. It's got to be a game that you think is going to get up there. It also has to fit. You can't take 4 guys and then you're choosing all 3,800 people and there's no one down there. So that makes it tough. I don't want to overlook into this, but West Virginia, for some reason, their tempo is somewhat down in terms of just pace, number of plays. Hasn't been what I thought. And Will Greer's still great. I played him last week, and he just threw a lot of touchdowns, just not to my receiver who dropped a 60-yard wide open one. We're not really going to delve into that. But I think in a slate like this, there are some heavy hitters. So, you got Kyler Murray, you got Mackenzie Milton, as we'll work down into some of the cheaper quarterbacks in a bit. I'm not sure you have to go there. I think you can try to somewhat hedge that game and say, I'm going to take a piece here, a piece there. I get some exposure to a game with a monster total and see what's what. Texas Tech is kind of I don't want to say an anomaly, but I don't know how good they really are. They're never good at defense. They always, Kingsbury runs a run and gun style offense. They're starting the freshman QB who seems to be very good, this Bowman character.
Is that where Mahomes went?
So, yeah, Mahomes, and at one point, Mahomes and Baker Mayfield were on the same team. And Mahomes beat him out. Baker transferred to Oklahoma. He was a walk-on there, and then rest is history. But, yeah, Mahomes was the Texas Tech QB. And that's where I saw him throw 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, it felt like, in every game. And I developed the theory that he would throw an interception during his NFL career, which apparently was
that was a fish call.
What an idiot. So, yeah, I just think that there are other ways that you can attack this slate besides that game. I wouldn't fault anyone for looking into it, but there's a couple other games. I mean, just off the top, you still have a handful that are going to be big spreads. Oklahoma's playing Kansas. It's going to be bad. You'll appreciate this because I know you're a big Army football guy. Army went into Norman last week and they lost in overtime. And Oklahoma was one of the big boys, so that was wildly surprising. That triple option gives teams problems. It somewhat negates the talent advantage, but it was. We'll see this week what they can do. Kyler Murray, threat with the legs, threat through the air. He's just great. Hollywood Brown, phenomenal.
I like that guy. Fast one.
He's just great, and I kind of think he's perpetually underpriced. He's just been really having a year, and don't see much. In the Army game, he was just off the board, which was kind of bizarre. I expected him to rebound in a big way. Bam is on the slate. I think you kind of disregard that because they're going to win by an extreme margin. Projected score
from Vegas is 58.5 to 9.5.
Yeah, they just have too many players. They've always, they're using 2 quarterbacks. They use about, a stable of running backs, even in competitive games. So,
yeah, when they beat the snot out of Mississippi a couple weeks ago, I was looking at see how they did, and there's 20 dudes that got 11 fantasy points.
That's not even atypical in terms of a somewhat competitive. Like, I can't tell you the number of times I've seen 7 carries, 68 yards, 1 touchdown by 3 or 4 guys, and it's like, what are you supposed to do there? The floors are somewhat safe for all of them. Harris and the rest of the running backs. Both Harris's, actually. It's just hard to say one of them is going to do anything of significant value. So we'll see. I mean, yeah, I don't know. These Big 12 games are ones I misspoke before. Oklahoma's playing Baylor. Oklahoma State's got Kansas. Both the Oklahoma teams, they're in really good spots to run it up. It's just a matter of as usual, how long is the starters going to be in there? I don't mind either offense. On Oklahoma State side, they've got some weapons, especially through the air. Jalen McCleskey announced that he's taking a red shirt and transferring. So we'll have to keep an eye. I assume that means that he's out. May shrink that receiving core a little for Oklahoma State. So I do feel a little better if you want to go to Stoner or Wallace or one of them. But for the most part, I think that's kind of what I do each week. I'll pick a team that I feel pretty comfortable with, try to fill in a couple weapons, and then see where it leaves me. There's so many options because these teams have so many players that it is very difficult to just start pegging it down like NFL.
Yeah. Do you see, so speaking of that, it does seem like there's a bunch of dudes that are in really nice spots that are really expensive. Like if you look at the West Virginia TCU game, it's like both quarterbacks are over 10K. There's 3 wide receivers that are 8,000 plus. Like if you want to be playing, and then not to mention Hollywood Brown and the other guy you just mentioned, there's plenty of dudes to pay up for. You finding any value out there?
So there's nothing huge, but I'll say this. The Purdue-Nebraska game, to me, kind of goes somewhat overlooked towards the back of the spread. Nothing really stands out. Nebraska was absolutely walloped last week at Michigan. They were destroyed, and they are winless on the year, and it's been as bad of – it's just the simple fact that Scott Frost, who is their new coach from UCF, is running an offense that his players are not equipped to run. He will get recruits and they will install the real offense. And this is just a transition year. Mm-hmm. The one thing he does have, though, is the right quarterback. Adrienne Martinez is going to be great. He's a true freshman. He got hurt and he came back last week and he was ineffective to the point that he got negative points, which is impressive. Having said that, that's as bad a spot you could be at Michigan. He seems to be getting healthier. He's got a home matchup with the Purdue defense that I am not overly into. They looked, and I took some heat, they really shut down BC and A.J. Dillon, who, despite what a lot of people in Slack said, A.J. Dillon's a very good player. They tackled well, and they could not get him going.
If he's not putting up fantasy points, he's not.
It's all about results, bro.
Yeah.
It was surprising, though. Purdue was very impressive at home. But now they go to Lincoln. Spread is low. I think that's a big trap spot. Nebraska's only a 3-point dog at home. I think that's a spot you could look to. Adrienne Martinez and Blau on the other side, both quarterbacks in the mid-7s. Talk about some value. Pairing up, say, Martinez with like a Spielman for Nebraska. His stats aren't great because they've been somewhat disrupted. And you look at last week, I throw that game out completely. This is not Michigan. They're going to be at home. And then on the other side, of course, Purdue has a somewhat special player, this Rondell Moore kid, freshman, really shifty, big playability. I think he was somewhat fortunate last week. He took a pass that should have been a routine tackle, broke the tackle, and ran 80 yards for a touchdown. And that's really what got him there. But at the same time, they look to get him involved in a handful of ways. He kind of has – he's not like Kamara, but he's like Kamara in the sense that they're giving him such easy targets that he converts such a ridiculous amount. It adds up really fast.
Yep, that makes sense.
But yeah, Nebraska, I think that's a team that everyone's going to say, oh my God, they're 0-3. They looked horrible last week. They're not that bad. Martinez is the key. If he comes back healthy tomorrow, I think they can beat Purdue.
All right, like it. Gonna play some of them. Any bargain basement running backs that are out there?
Running back's always tricky.
It is. I'm fine. I mean, I've obviously not played a bunch of college football in my life. I've found that it seems to make a lot of sense to try and find just like super cheap running backs, and because to win tournaments, you got to have people go off, and it's just a little harder for the running backs to do that when wide receivers might catch 200, have 11 receptions for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, I think it's it's a situation where you're kind of just looking at game scripts, game flows, because we've talked openly on this show. There's not that many running backs in college that are padding their stats with receptions, and that's what I like to do when I pay down. It's like, all right, well, he's going to get 4 catches. That'll when you're 4,000, you've already done like 1.5x here. There's not that much of that in college, so it's either do you go mid range with like a McCoy or Knox? They're both in the mid 5s, which I don't mind. They're not the primary options on their team. Both those teams prefer to throw. They have Greer, and the Purdue quarterback is also a weapon. Or do you try to pay up to the I hate to recommend this Puka Williams guy, but he is a bell cow for Kansas. He's the only useful weapon that they have. Do we see that? Obviously, if I could get up to NTA on Clemson, I think that's as good a spot as you're really going to find. He's only 7,400. There's guys behind them. Clemson's one of the teams. They've been running 2 quarterbacks. They've now said they're going with the freshman. Kelly Bryant said he's going to transfer. So that sorted itself out. Maybe since it's just the freshman, they lean a little heavier on what they know, which is that running game, to Etienne Feaster, who I mentioned last week on the show, and he actually did score, which was somewhat lucky and kind of nice. He's dependent on that big playability. He's 4,100. He's only going to get a handful of carries each week. I think 8 to 10 is as good as you're going to find there. So, you just got to hope that he's fortunate and he breaks one.
Yep. And he's crazy fast, right?
Crazy fast, like world speed. But I don't know why he's not better, to be honest. I don't really understand.
It's like Tatum Bell. Remember that guy?
Yeah, I do remember. I think he went to Oklahoma State, I want to say, but
he was crazy fast and just couldn't do anything else. Didn't really work in the NFL, shockingly.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those guys like Julio's an example of this. When this guy was coming out of high school, it was like a thing. Like everybody wanted him. It was going to change the landscape. Clemson got him, and then it just didn't really work. They've just got other guys who have kind of passed him over. So we'll see. He seems to have found a nice little role, though, in these past couple weeks. He's getting the carries. The speed is always there. That's not the problem. It's just, I guess he's not a 15, 20 touch kind of guy. And they do have Etienne, who I'm probably butchering his name, but he's great.
I think it's Etienne, right?
Etienne, he can play. And Syracuse is coming in pretty hot. Clemson's still almost a 30-point favorite, which is significant in Death Valley.
Yeah, that seems like a tough one. Clemson, huge favorite. I mean, Georgia's going to beat the snot out of Tennessee. That seems like a kind of useless game for DFS, right?
Georgia's really tough. They're super sound. They just kind of dismantle teams. Even last week against Mizzou, it was somewhat of a back and forth, but at no point did it feel like Georgia wasn't going to get there. They have they spell him it's not a split at QB, but this Fields kid does get a little work. And they got another team, Swift. He's one of the best running backs in the country, but you've got Evander Holyfield's kid, who's a perfect, second fiddle to him, and he gets some significant work for them. The receivers, it's few and far between. They don't run a gimmicky offense. They kind of run like a pro-style team. So, you're not seeing crazy numbers put up. You could look to Ridley. Maybe it runs in the family and he catches 3.
See Calvin Ridley's brother?
He is. So we'll see. They are going to murder Tennessee, but it's tough to go to teams like that when you have some gimmicky teams on the slate that are just going to really open it up, like all the Big 12 teams.
Yep. I get that.
Yeah, and then so the one last game I'll touch upon. You got Arkansas and Texas A&M on the slate. Arkansas is like, I don't want to say they're historically bad because that's probably a little much. But at the same time, they might be historically bad for them. They're just horrendous. Like they just get walloped, and now they're into SEC portion of the schedule. There's going to be no wins there. They're going into College Station. I don't know where Texas A&M is at mentally. They played Clemson, then they played Louisiana Monroe, who's a joke, and then they played Alabama. So they've been, they've got 2 losses, probably to the best 2 teams in the country. I don't know what that really means. Maybe it's a get-right spot and they lay it on them. I don't like Arkansas, but you could look to, even if you want to go Kellen Mond, I mean, he's mostly a scrambler, but he could fill it up. And I don't mind looking to Sternberger, who's one of like the Mark Andrews-esque, he's going to be playing on Sundays at tight end. He can really play. Even Rodgers for them, they have some weapons on the outside and they're not overly, that's as cheap as I really see for the slate, high 4s, low 5s. You're probably going to have to funnel a couple of them in, and in a game with a great script, they're going to put up points. You could probably do worse there. I don't see huge upside, but I do think they'll have opportunities.
Okay. That's fair enough.
Arkansas is so bad, though. They're just horrendous. They're the team, I don't know if you saw, they got fooled on the punt return a couple weeks ago.
Missed that one.
It's kind of just stupid in general. The guy just didn't call a fair cut. She just caught it, and he stood there. And then after 5 seconds, he just, everyone was kind of walking, and he just ran into the end zone. Arkansas, not really clicking.
Yeah, it's not great. You don't want to do that, in my opinion. Tough times. Excellent. All right. Any other points for you as far as college goes?
No, not really. I think, like always, what you want to do, look at this. It's more important in the NFL to look at Vegas, look at the spreads, look at the totals, because it's one thing. We saw Vikings Bills. The Vikings are going to run away with it. That was 17 points. That's as high as we're ever going to see. You got spreads that are 35. Those teams are not losing. It's just that happens once every 5 years. A team has a battle in a game like that. So there are game scripts, and then there's game scripts. You don't want to be playing a full-on Tua Alabama stack. I don't think that makes any sense whatsoever. And then there's a game for me, Purdue, Nebraska. Maybe it goes overlooked. I'll roll the dice with Adrienne Martinez in a high-risk spot. We want to find out where he's at health-wise. But if he's mobile, I think they move the ball pretty well against a Purdue team that I still don't think is great.
Yeah. No, that's a good point to bring up, though, about the Vegas stuff, because, you said, but Minnesota, Buffalo, that's like the craziest NFL result we've had in, I don't know, a long time. I think it's maybe underreported. Yes, anything can happen any given Sunday kind of stuff, but a team favored by 2 touchdowns, losing by 2 touchdowns, by more than by double digits, I'm not sure that's really ever happened.
Decades. I think that's one of those outliers, even amongst the outliers.
Yes. And then if you look at this 10-game college football slate, half of the lines are bigger than that line.
That's what I'm saying. It's it's not to me, it's not linear in the sense when you're a 35, 40 point favorite, it just doesn't happen. Yes, does it? Of course, we have seen some stupid things. It takes an extreme circumstance for that. I think you have to adhere to some of these teams. You talked about it. Louisiana Lafayette, all their best players are super cheap. When you're banking on maybe they can get a touchdown, it's really hard to go there, even amongst, what
if they get into a good game script, though? If they get down 4 touchdowns,
they're going to be throwing.
Yeah, they're just going to be thrown everywhere.
Unfortunately, well, that's a good thing because Alabama, you really can't run on them no matter what. So even though I give Texas A&M credit, they moved the ball a little last week. Still, Alabama's possibly rarefied air this year. They're very, very good.
Yeah, they don't even put money lines on the board for a lot of these teams.
No.
I was just thinking about that. It's how many 25 point spread money lines do you have to parlay to get a break even bet? They don't even offer it.
It's not that many, to be honest.
Okay. Go ahead.
No, I probably kind of a donkey move, but there have been weeks where I've just taken a quote unquote team that I think is like a sure thing, and use them in open parlays in all my bets and basically bet vig free. Now, if the team loses, I lose every single bet. But at the same time, instead of laying minus 110, I'm getting like, plus 105 on every single bet. Makes a little difference.
Yeah. So you do that with the Patriots to win their division every year, like the Spurs to make the playoffs or whatever.
I bet the Spurs. Remember, I did that. I had that.
I remember that. Yeah, that's what made me
sweat it.
Ooh, yeah, they fell off towards the end. That was ugly.
I mean, that's like, not that you can really bet these, but like the Celtics and Warriors to make the playoffs. I mean, it's 100% in my eyes. Like, obviously that's probably minus 10,000, something like that. But, if a site was flexible and you could throw those into all your bets.
Yeah.
Something I would look at, but
Patriots are still they're like minus 330 to make the playoffs.
Yeah, they'll probably still be a slight favorite if they lose this week.
Yeah.
That's pathetic.
It's wild. It's a wild world out there. All right, well, that's a good segue to the NFL. Anything changed for you, really, we've talked about it. We talked about it Wednesday. We talked about it last night. Yeah, exactly. Anything changed for you in the last 15 hours since we talked about NFL last?
No. And I did the Mayo show. I've talked about the slate a lot. No, I think it's just going to be continuing to focus. And this is the name. I don't have a theme in DFS, but if I did, it would be I'm more concerned. I've looked at this slate. I know what I want to do. I'm more concerned about building the teams. Can I make different lineups? Can I identify the correct chalk to buy into? Can I, when I buy into it, be unique enough in giant field? Some of these tournaments are huge that I play in, not just high dollar. Can I be different? What good is it if everyone has the same Sterling Shepard idea that I do?
Yeah, it's an odd one. And we talked about this a little bit last night, but you want to. I mean, there are some pivots because I do think the sort of expensive guys. It's going to be pretty common, like who everyone goes with, and there's just not as much. The last few weeks, because there've been a lot of value that's opened up, you can mix and match and play 2 or 3 of these $8,000-$9,000 guys. You can't really do that this week,
and that's
which I think is good.
It makes it different, and that's why I like to be adjusted. It does feel a little balanced, and today, EMAC actually, perfect segue because this is who I wanted to bring up. He was asking about David Johnson, who's I think going to be in a somewhat, it's not a dead salary range, but he is not going to funnel ownership with all the polarizing plays around him. The wild card, of course, is what does Josh Rosen bring to the table? Can he even keep these teams remotely honest? I don't know, but I'm still willing to buy on a low-owned David Johnson. I don't think I have to move mountains to get overweight. And at 6'6",
yeah, man.
I mean,
and do you think that? I mean, it comes down to do you think they'll change it around and try to make it easier for him? But the thing is the old Bradford way of doing things. I've been I've lost a lot of money playing 15-20% of David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald every week so far this year. Because Sam Bradford generally in his career when he's been healthy has been good. He may just not be healthy, but he also excels at the sort of short passing to your Fitzgerald, David Johnson types. That should have been where they went. They didn't do that with him. I wonder if they do it with with Rosen, who probably Bradford. At least we've seen be good. We know he's talented. Do we know anything about Rosen? He might be awful, right?
I mean, I've seen him play a lot. He's got some moxie. He's kind of like Baker in that sense. Don't think the moment will be too big for him. I more worry about him kind of being somewhat stubborn to the sense of, he kind of plays the way he plays and that's it. I would hope that they do somewhat truncate the game plan to put him in kind of like what Jared Goff, I think that's a good example. That's the kind of thing you want to do with a guy coming off a first start. Give him simple tasks. Don't have him.
Counterpoint, Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
They've done that for him, and he still sucks. Could that happen with Rosen? And whatever. That was more of a joke. I think the issue, we don't know what the Cardinals coaching staff is really planning on doing. Like, we know that the Bears are trying to do. They're from Nagy's another guy from that Andy Reid coaching tree, and he wants to run that kind of offense that McVay runs, that Andy Reid runs, that they're running and trying to run in Tennessee now.
Counterpoint the other way, and it's not even a counterpoint. It's actually adding on to it. The scary thing that worries me, and it's not about because I have no interest in playing Rosen, is the luxury that a team like the Rams have, even though Goff is good. It's not about Goff. He doesn't have to lose the game. Rosen kind of has to win the game. That's a killer. He can't just say, hey, I've got a great defense, all these weapons. Let me lean on them. They don't have that much. And that's where Trubisky, I kind of give him a harsher grade because they have the makings of he just needs to not screw it up and the Bears will be good.
That's what I'm saying. If the Bears had a fine quarterback, they would be one of the better teams in the NFL.
They are 2-1 with a good spot to go 3-1 here.
Yeah, that's true.
And they could have won in Lambeau, and they would be possibly 4-0. I'm just saying, No,
you're right. I'm just saying, like, honestly, I think if they had Jared Goff, they would be, maybe the third or fourth best team. Like, they have that much talent everywhere else.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying I'm interested to see how far Trubisky hinders them. That's, I guess. Right now, I don't think even though he's looked bad, it really hasn't cost them that much in the sense that the Green Bay game got away, but that's not a game I expect them to win, to be honest.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I do think, though, going back to David Johnson, I mean, yes, it makes sense, but at the same time, you have to keep them honest. The Cardinals, we've seen, don't give him a lot of unique looks to get him the ball, and if Rosen's ineffective, it does have makings of a 11 carry, 36 yards, 2 target kind of game. And that's obviously super concerning, but I'm still buying. I'm willing to take the plunge.
I think I like Tevin Coleman better than David Johnson.
You're really high.
That is? Yeah. I think it's going to be a good week for him. Ito Smith has missed some practice. I think Coleman's a good runner. Whatever. The Falcons have a really good offensive line. So that's the big thing. And then just like what I was just sort of shocked and maybe this is overreaction to a small sample, but what the Carolina, who's down 3 offensive linemen, they just beat the bag out of the Cincinnati defensive line and just ran over them. Christian McCaffrey ran for 180 yards. Like that's crazy.
No argument. I guess for me, I'm not as high on Coleman as you in general, but I'll say this, and I feel like this is right in your wheelhouse. And this is a big if Coleman's hovering around 20 and David Johnson's hovering around 6, say it's a third, it's hard to
see. I don't think that will be the case. I think they'll both be 12 to 15.
Fair enough. If it's a simple pivot, I'm just saying if you have 3x the ownership on Coleman.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you there. I don't think David Johnson's going to plummet because his price tag is plummeting. So people are – and the name – that's where what I'm saying is the name value on David Johnson is so much higher than the Tevin Coleman name value, even though Coleman, I think, is in a better spot right now. I think people, because of the name stuff, will gravitate towards DJ. But
interesting. There's a lot of them. I mean, with the Geo and the other guy who no one has brought up, is Leonard Fournette. I don't have the pricing in front of me. I think he's $7K on the dot.
I don't think he's playing though, right?
He's not playing. I see. I thought he was coming back.
I think he was. I don't think he's practiced all week.
Okay. So that's one to note. If he was playing, he would be like legit 3-5%.
Let me check that. I may be wrong. But
no. Earlier in the week, it was to be determined. And
no, sorry, my bad. He's projected to be back.
Okay.
He got in a limited practice Wednesday and yesterday.
So if he is under center, he's under center. If he is in the backfield, talk about a guy that nobody is going to go to in a game script at home against the Jets. I get it. It's just tough there's so many guys he needs to outplay and it's loaded. I'm just saying, anytime you can get a pivot up there a handful of percent, which I think there really is a chance, especially if he's got a big Q tag next to his name.
Yeah, that's not unreasonable. I'm trying to think of who else might be interesting running back pivots. I don't know. Yeah, we talked about this a lot last night. There's just so many dudes. I think, cash games will come locked with Kamara and Gio. And then, I think Zeke is going to be really popular. Melvin Gordon obviously will be really popular because the Chargers.
I don't want to say guarantees, but right now I'm certainly not going to play Kamara in cash. I'm going to play Melvin Gordon over him if I can.
I may experiment with that. I'm not married to Kamara this week, and I'm short on him in tournaments for sure because I think he will be popular. And it's just whatever. I've said this a bunch. I've been short on him basically all year because it is very, very difficult. Like if a guy who's in the 9K range, I played Kamara a lot week 1. I'm sorry, but he was 7,900 or 8,200 or something like that. Then the last 2 weeks I haven't been on him as much. With the basic idea being in tournaments, it's very hard to get burned by a guy who's $9,000. Like they have to go absolutely crazy. He went absolutely crazy last week. But if a guy who's 9-3 scores 22 points, like you're happy with that basically in tournaments.
Even if he scores 30 and it's not ideal for you, you're not dead. It's when he scores 45 that you're like, well, and he's 25% owned. That's the killer. But obviously I got him in cash last week and that's saved me in cash. I'm just saying for me, pricing seems somewhat tight. There's not that much value. I'm going to probably take the savings with Melvin Gordon as it stands right now in cash, and Gio would be the other one and work around there. I think I can use that salary for some good.
Do you prefer Gordon to Barkley?
I do, yeah. Giants, I don't know. It's nothing against Saquon. I think he's quality. He's good. Melvin Gordon to me just has certainly a better game script, more of a defined role where I don't really know what the Giants are. I don't know how they attack and what to really make of that game as a whole. Yeah.
The Chargers do have a bad offensive line, which is even more hurt. And then San Francisco's like their only real talent. They have some dudes defensively, but they're mostly all like run stopper types. Like they should have a good run defense. I don't know.
I don't even see the thing with
that matters. The thing with Barkley and Gordon is what you're hoping for is 8 targets.
Yeah.
10, 12 targets really is what you're hoping for.
And I just think he's such an asset in the red zone. Like they go like the Gurley route where it's just, we're going to get this guy. He's going to get the first crack, it seems like, every time. And again, and this is, I don't have evidence to back this up. They're one of those teams, though. The Saints do this too. If it's first and goal on the 1, they give it to Gordon. If he gets stuffed, you know what they do? They give it to him again. Like, they don't just abandon it and go into like the Falcons style where they just do like crazy different stuff on every play. Don't give it a chance. So he's going to get his looks. No problem with Barkley as a whole. For cash, I definitely have Gordon ahead of him.
Yeah, I certainly do too. I think Barkley's actually pretty interesting play this week. We'll see. We will see. All right, just about does it for NFL. We gotta. You want to get the poll?
We do. Emac did just ask about it. Quincy and Noon. I'll quickly say, if I go to a Jet, I guess it'd be him because he's really cheap. But that's as bad a matchup as you're going to get, obviously, in Jacksonville.
Yeah, does Nunwa run primarily out of the slot?
Yes.
Am I making that up? Yeah. So then that is the one sort of weakness for Jacksonville. And this is, again, it's more of a hunch. If I was Jacksonville, seeing what I've seen from Darnold, I would push up severely. And someone like Robbie Anderson, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but there's a potential for him to get over the top. Because if I was them, I would really press up on Darnold and stop these midget crossing routes to Enunwa and really force Darnold to throw it down the field and challenge
where the strength of that defense is. So we'll see if they do that, and if Darnold takes the bait and maybe gives someone like Robbie Anderson some looks.
Yeah, I suppose that's possible. It seems that is a tall task. So
that's what I'm saying. I don't like the spot at all. Anyway, we do have a poll question. Silverback gorillas. The gorilla was soundly chosen by America and the world to defeat the 10 UFC fighters.
As well as should be.
So this question...
We've agreed the last 2 weeks. We don't today, so let's do this.
This question's been asked by a lot of people, and I certainly am in the minority that I think that the UFC fighters could find a way collectively. 10 big dudes. I will say that the fact that gorillas have like A, super strength, and B, when you like hurt them, they get angrier and they can push themselves harder than a human could is a red flag. Yeah, you don't say. I don't know. I think 10 guys could find a way to collectively subdue it.
I think you're absolutely right. They could find a way to do it if there was training for it. But the whole idea of this is just everyone gets dropped in the ring together. I personally think that yes, you could do it, but it's going to take people sacrificing themselves, which maybe they would do eventually. But really what you need is 4 people to each grab one of the gorilla's limbs. A couple of them are probably going to die doing that. But if 4 people each grab a limb and then somebody else, you get Brock Lesnar in there, like gouging out the eyeballs. I think that's how it happens. But that takes some coordination and a willingness to sacrifice yourself, which I don't know if people do that in the spot. But
I get what you're saying. The apprehension of it would be interesting in the sense that if there was a hesitation for anyone to no one wanted to make the first move, there would be a problem. It would have to be a coordinated effort from the start. Because you can't afford to have 2 people just get eviscerated.
I think that's what happens. Is that 2 people just kind of go, 2-3 people get plucked off one at a time while they're dicking around trying to be like, why am I in this cage why did I wake up drugged in a cage with a
No, they know why they're there, for the record.
Why?
No, it's not like they're confused. They don't have time to practice, but they understand the task at hand. It's 10 of them against this gorilla. That's just the situation.
Uh-huh. You said they know why they're there. Why are they there?
Because society has put them there.
Because the A to B Twitter poll decided.
That's just the world we live in.
What were the results? What was the percentage?
It was 70-something% gorilla. So basically, 3 out of every 4.
We got sharp people subbing to this.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Talons, another problem.
They're not. Talons are what birds have, man.
All right, what do they have? Claws?
Yeah, I guess.
They got some.
Do they even? I mean, all right, let's look at this here.
I thought that they had some type of,
fingernails. I mean, they're mammals.
Yeah, but I thought it was severe.
No, they just got normal ass fingernails.
Oh, 8 guys could handle this. They're not even going to get scratched.
I mean, maybe they're long fingernails. I don't think they spend a lot of time. It's not like
grooming.
Big baby Davis hanging out at the manicurist every day.
Yeah, you gotta keep it. I don't know. We're not going to find out anytime soon. I will say, a full-grown silverback gorilla is gigantic and quite powerful, but 10 guys, that's a couple thousand pounds. It's a ton.
Yeah, no, they would have a weight advantage of a little more than double, I would think. What's a giant?
I think it's 600.
Okay.
So they have it 4-to-1 in terms of weight, but the strength is still with the gorillas can bend steel bars.
Yeah,
that's not good.
Not for the humans. No.
No. Yeah, that's right. For
and the small area is bad for them too. I think being inside the cage. I don't know. I just think once the gorilla gets pissed, they're going to have to act quickly. They're going to have to figure out what they want to do fast. And I feel like there'd be too much indecisiveness there, but
that's fair. It would be tough. The other thing is, can you leverage 10? That's a question I always had. Like, it's no good if at max only 6 people can do anything useful. Like, you need all 10 involved at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, if it's too confined where a couple people are only like grabbing, you need all 10 like exerting their full force together to have a chance. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like with the World War I stuff when they first invented like the machine guns that were just, you've got thousands and thousands of people charging up this hill, but none of them are able to do it. You just got this one, they're just coming through a doorway basically, which I could see one of those scenarios happening where the gorilla just takes them down one at a time. Or, that's the thing is the gorilla could probably handle 4 of them at a time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's the thing.
I'm with you if all 10 of them found a way to just be like, all right, we're going here, we're doing this, but it would take some coordination. And I'm not sure that's going to happen on the spot like that.
Fair enough.
We'll have to find out someday when we're super rich,
After we win consecutive Millie makers, $10 Millie this week.
Might take more than a couple $1 million to have
I was going to say
silverback gorilla fight 10 people who are probably going to die.
I'll put that all into Ripple and then lose it all. And then win it back. I don't know. They changed the tournaments up a little this week, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Maybe, when 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Lambo, we will have enough money to be able to buy those people.
Anywho.
Yeah. Fun question. We've talked about this a lot. This was the FanVice meetup last January at Connor's house. This was basically all we talked about the entire time, or questions like this, but you have a whole list of them. We will get into them over the course of this show. Excellent. Anything else from you, man? I feel like that does it for me.
I think that's it. Like everything, good luck this weekend in college and NFL. Won't be around much tomorrow, but Saturday, that is tomorrow. Sunday morning, me and Lofty will be doing one final NFL show. And then next week, just to get people who are watching a tentative schedule, Monday is going to be our recap like we do, but Tuesday, full-on golf show. Going to do some fun stuff. The Wednesday night golf show is back in business next week.
Yes, indeed.
And if Hot Magic over here wants to start talking a little NBA on the slow times, I think that's a pretty good thing because preseason NBA starts tonight.
It does. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be great. Fast Eddie Fear will be doing some things. We're going to also be talking some NBA, getting ready for the season.
Absolutely. So we got all kinds of good stuff over here at Osmo that is behind the paywall. You should check out. You got ownership projections. I do some points projections. Ben writes some articles. We got all the fellas working behind closed doors. That's not the right thing I was trying to say, but that'll work. Also, one more point from Ammontastic Creations. He saw a silverback gorilla throw poo at a kid at the Albuquerque Zoo. It's a good distance and hit him right in the chest. So that's one more mark in his corner.
And the match is going to take place in New Mexico. So apparently the gorilla will feel at home there. So there we go.
It's true. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Check us out over at awesomemo.com, and we will see you all on Sunday, Monday, over the weekend. Goodbye.